And here we go.
Welcome to the Great Work Insights Podcast by the O.C. Tanner Institute, the show that features the people, the professionals, the thought leaders, and the coolest companies. And now your host, the man navigating the discussion about the culture, the organized chaos, and the best practices that compel great work, Todd Nordstrom.
Have you ever looked at a book or an article or even some sort of training manual before you read it and tried to judge the amount of time you'll need to invest before you get the information you need? Or have you ever looked at a task or a project or a job and thought, I wonder how long it will take, how much work I'll have to do, or how much effort I'll have to exert until I find success? We all make these snap decisions and assumptions or judgments throughout our days about the effort that we're going to have to put forward. Do I have the time and energy to really do this? And if I do it, will it be worth it? Now let's think bigger. Have you ever imagined your perfect career, your perfect success, that place where you reach the top? What does it look like for you? Where is that place? Who are you? What are you doing? And is it actually possible for you to get there? Are you the right person to make something big happen? And do you have the energy to do it? Our guest today says, yes, you are. In fact, she says that most of the people who achieve their dreams aren't actually gifted, or they don't have some outrageous IQ or talent or unique skill. Instead, she says that if you dig through the stories and really get in there of the people who have become great, even legendary at what they do, they were just average people like the rest of us who achieved not because they were special, but because they just wanted it more. Please welcome to the show, Robin Koval. Robin, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Robin, for listeners who may not know who you are, I want to give a proper introduction. But before I do that, I want to ask you a question first. Are you the person you are today because you're special? Do you have some extraordinary talent or IQ?
I would think we all like to think we're a little special, but the truth is, I grew up in pretty ordinary circumstances. I'm a girl from the Bronx, New York. No special privileges or advantages, and in some ways, I used to kind of resent that and admire all the people I knew who had fancy Ivy League degrees or had incredible talents, whether they were artistic talents or athletic talents. And say, well, what happened to me? But the truth is, actually, that was a gift because what it forced me to do is develop, those characteristics that all of us have inside us of, just being a person who, you know what, Robin, if you want to make it in this world, you're just going to have to work darn hard. And so that's exactly what I did.
Got it. Yeah. But it's funny. Now I'm going to give you your proper introduction. Today you find yourself with a highly impressive history of accomplishment. You're a co-founder of the Kaplan Thaler Group. They're the advertising agency responsible for creating campaigns like the Aflac Duck, Herbal Essences, which many listeners might be familiar with. It's a campaign that obviously has some legs, pardon the pun, but listeners have spent years watching women shampoo their hair with vigor. I guess that's the right word.
Shall I do it for you? Yes.
You have also authored 2 best-selling books, The Power of Small and The Power of Nice, and you're the CEO of the nation's largest public foundation called Truth Initiative, which is devoted to preventing smoking. And while you're here today, you've just released a brand new book that really caught my attention because the title includes a word that is not often heard or used in the corporate space or anywhere anymore, but I think it should be. The word is grit. What does grit mean?
I'm glad you said that because people, sort of give grit a bad name. It sounds like, oh, you're a drudge, you work too hard, but really what grit is a character trait that we all can possess, and we do, that is the secret to success. For us, I spent my time growing up in the advertising world, so of course it's an acronym, so you can remember it, and it stands for, beyond just the word grit, which we know what it means, is guts, resilience, initiative, and tenacity. Those character traits, when you put them together, the courage to do things that scare us a little bit, the resilience to bounce back when you get knocked down, which, hey, that's life, the initiative to, get yourself up off the sofa and actually do something versus just dreaming about it. And then tenacity, that ability to stay focused, especially when tasks are hard, which is very hard in today's world when, we have a million devices beeping and buzzing at us all the time and we get distracted.
Yeah, yeah. The title of the book is Grit to Great, How Perseverance, Passion, and Pluck take you from ordinary to extraordinary. I promise I love the acronym. I love what you were just saying. And as you were talking about that, I'm looking at your subtitle and looking at the word pluck. What does pluck mean?
Yeah, that's a word we don't hear that much anymore. We were hoping it would stick in people's brains. It's a word that means like being, kind of courageous and a little brave and determined. You're not right. You'd say like, he's a plucky character. And so, we like that word just like we like grit because they're kind of old-fashioned words. But this whole idea of grit is something, if you really think about it, that is at the root of the American character. It's how we became great. And somehow along the way, maybe we just kind of forgot about it a little bit. So we want to help people remember that it's something that we all need and we can all develop.
Great. I've read an advanced copy of your book. Let me share one story that really made me think. It's just one of the stories in the book. You wrote about a guy named Bob Mankoff. He's a cartoonist, and Bob was a guy who submitted thousands of his cartoons trying to get published to a little magazine called The New Yorker. A few people might be familiar with that one. Hoping that he would get his work in the magazine. He eventually was published, and today he's the cartoon editor of The New Yorker. What struck me though was following this story of this guy who submitted all these cartoons. Was a statistic in the story that now is in Bob's charge. The best cartoonists in the industry keep sending their stuff to The New Yorker because it's an admirable place to be published. But the magazine only has a 10% acceptance rate. When you look at that number and you think about the work that these people are going through on a slim chance that it's going to become something, why? Why do they keep submitting?
Well, I think that's a lot about being in an optimistic frame of mind, right? And it is, people talk about having an open or a closed mindset. If you have a closed mindset and you get rejected over and over again, what you read into that is, I'm not good, I'm not talented, why is this worth it? But if you have an open mindset, an optimistic mindset, you see it a whole different way. Mm-hmm. You see it as, you know what, if I work a little harder, maybe I'll figure it out. Or, gee, the editor must really not have been in a good mood that day, but I'm going to catch him again tomorrow. And on and on. And I think that's something, a lot of us can learn from. We take things very personally when we have a setback. But a lot of times it had nothing to do with us. It had to do with the, many other things that could have been going bad that day. And to not think of it as your own inability or your own limited set of abilities, but the fact that you can always expand who you are, what you do, and if you are gutsy and resilient and you have initiative and tenacity, it's all within your power.
Sure. It's kind of like what you were saying about your upbringing. It was kind of a gift in a way because you had to have that grit. You had to be a little more scrappy, right?
Yeah, I had no choices, so I guess I was lucky. And I think, it's something that, one of the things we talk about in the book is, the millennial generation. The world is a tough place now. The economic environment is challenging for people who are building careers. And this generation, was part of the self-esteem movement, right? Everybody gets a trophy, yeah. Which in a way did them, a disservice, because, they are now facing a world where, hey, guess what? you don't get a trophy just for showing up. But the good news is, I think that, this is something that we can develop. There are tools and tricks and lots of things we can do to develop our grit.
Yeah, that's interesting. What makes you want to win more, winning or losing? That's an interesting question. Can I ask a depressing question?
Sure.
As you were researching this book, I'm sure you came across a billion stories, many which are in the book, and I'm sure that there were some that didn't make the book. Did you ever come across a story where someone spent their entire life chasing a dream that just didn't come to fruition, didn't come true?
Well, that is depressing. But I think, one of the chapters we have in the book is called Ditch the Dream. Mm-hmm. And it is about the point that you're making, that I think a lot of folks who, are sort of not getting where they want to go, unfortunately, it's easy to dream about this wonderful place you want to get, your fabulous job, that great career, or even if it's about your personal, relationships with people. But dreaming gets you no place. There's it's a Yiddish proverb actually that says, if you want your dreams to come true, wake up already. and so what, we're saying in the book, and what, the research shows and experience shows is that things that you're dreaming about may seem really nice in your dreams and very far off in the distance and hard to achieve, and that's why we don't go out and get it. But it is the actual getting up every day and doing things, just doing anything, doing something, a little thing. Get up 30 minutes earlier and write a blog post and put it on Facebook. Do whatever it is that will give you a little sense of achievement, and before you know it, those things that seem like dreams and impossibilities are actually coming true in little increments at a time. That's the way the world works. It
does. Does everyone have grit?
Absolutely, yes. That's one of the biggest messages in the book, that, you get the gifts you get from the universe, right? Your IQ or your, athletic talent. You can throw a ball or run fast, or, if you're lucky, you've got, wonderful, big bank account, rich parents, all that sort of stuff. That's great. If that happens to you, you're a very, very lucky person. But the truth is if you look at the most successful people, really everywhere, 80% of them were not special. Yeah. Colin Powell was a C student in college. Jack Ma, right, the founder of Alibaba, one of the richest people in China, talks about how growing up he couldn't even get a job at KFC. People thought he was just so ordinary. And the way these folks have succeeded, and the way many of us can succeed, all of us in fact, is by developing our grit. We've all got it.
So for the listeners here who are what I call the yeah but people, for the people that might be listening to this going, I love this, but I don't have time, or I'm too far along in my career to chase something else, or I tried it before. What's your advice? I love how in the book you include what you call grit builders at the end of every section. What do you tell people who might be, I don't know if the right word is anxious or fearful, or just asking themselves, what do you tell people who ask themselves, do I have what it takes to do this?
Well, first of all, fear is a good thing, right? So if you're feeling fear, good for you. If you're not feeling fear, then, chances are you're really not pushing yourself enough. And what we, these grit builders, I'm glad you brought that up, are lots of tips we have in the book that say you don't have to, take on the world in a day. There's one story that we talk about in the book. William McRaven, rather, is a former Navy SEAL, and the advice he gives to the toughest, baddest, Navy SEAL, right, members is make your bed every day. Why does he say that? I'm sure they do all sorts of other training, but if you make your bed every day, you start the day off on a positive note.
Yeah.
You've done something good. It helps you do more tasks as the day goes on, and each task you complete helps you complete another one. And, if by chance you have a really terrible day, you come home to a beautifully made bed that you have made, and it sets you up to achieve the next day. So, I take that and say, every day when you leave work, clean your desk. Because when you come in tomorrow, you will have a fresh surface to start the day anew. Or other little things, like if you're, trying to come up with ideas and be innovative, tomorrow morning, brush your teeth with the opposite hand. Little things like that, because when you do that, you get out of your habit, those routines, and it literally forces your brain into another mode. And that whole excuse of, I'm too old, I can't start, is, we talk about it in the book, is grit has no expiration date. First of all, we all are going to have chapter 2s and 3s in our life. The fastest growing group of people in the United States, I don't know if you know this, are centenarians, people who are 100 years old. Like it or not, we're going to probably live to very ripe old ages. I think that's good news.
Yeah.
And so, building that next part of your life is just going to be a natural phase.
Love it. Robin, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I remember speaking to you, it was many years ago, about the book Power of Nice. Is there anything through it, and you've also done the Power of Small, is there anything that through all of these books, whether it be the latest or the first, any epiphanies from doing all this work, all this research, all this interviewing, all this soul searching that you'd like to share?
Well, first of all, I think in some way it all kind of flows together, right? Nice and grit to me are, a perfect way to think about what is a good workplace? What is a good way to live your life, right? To combine those two characteristics. So, I do think sometimes when you write books, you are always approaching some of the same theories in life and the world that you find successful, but always through a little different lens. So to me, grit is, another chapter in that bigger story.
Wow. Thank you so much for being our guest today. If listeners want to find out more about you, your agency, your books, especially, Grit to Great, where should they look?
Well, grittogreat.com is our website, and you can find out more about me and my co-author, Linda Kaplan-Thaler, and where to buy the book and all that stuff there. We're on Facebook, Grit to Great. And of course, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and please support your local independent bookstore as well, are all places where you can get the book.
Great. You guys do such great work. Thank you so much for being a guest.
My pleasure. Thank you.
What did you think of today's show? The conversation continues on www.octanner.com. Be sure to leave us a comment. Also, remember to rate, review, and subscribe to all our podcasts on iTunes. Now get out there and build something beautiful. It's your turn now.